back to the last few years of my life, I realized that I coped with things in an unhealthy way. I had survival skills when it came to, emotional things that would happen in my life, as opposed to, being mature about it and adapting to situations. I survived for years,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of like searching on the inside to realize that, how I conducted myself as an adult was just not the correct way to do it. I hurt some people
Right.
along the way that didn't deserve it, and I would blame it on things that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Uh, I was your atypical, I was in the war, and so that's why this happened or that's why that happened. And honestly, at the end of the day, you could be a war vet and you can still just be an asshole, and that's what I was to a certain extent.
Right.
Um, I just conducted myself poorly and I hurt people along the way.
Yeah.
So I tried to, and then my previous partner, I also noticed that she also had some unhealthy coping mechanisms and survivability. So once we started talking about our lives, this is one of the
Right.
persons that opened my eyes to things that I was doing wrong that I had to see inside myself. And I realized that there's a huge difference in people that live their lives surviving each incident that they run into, and then then there are people that adapt to the new situations.
Right.
So my biggest thing, what I see as the biggest difference, is survivors first and foremost become very selfish people. All right,
Mm.
because you're surviving for your survival, or maybe
Mm.
extend that to, like, a child or a spouse or whatever. But you are simply existing to exist. You're making it from one
Mm.
incident, one event in your life to the next, and you don't care what kind of damage you do around you, as long as you can make it to your next obstacle or make it to the
I
next
just want to
goal.
see
Or
tomorrow. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Whereas when you're an adapter, you start to realize that, you have to take responsibility for what you do to other people, or what you do, in impacts how they feel and how they
Right.
see. And like, you can really fuck people's lives. Like, you can hurt them emotionally, physically, mentally, um just by being yourself, just because you reach a certain point. And you hear it a lot. People are just like, you know what, well, this is just the way I am. Well, that's
Yeah.
bullshit. It's a cop out. It's a cop
Mm.
out.
Yeah.
This is just the way I am. So let's say you get into a new relationship with somebody, and, I don't know, they do something that you don't agree, like, it just doesn't make sense to you, and then you bring it
Right.
up to them. It's a concern. It's
Right.
a red flag. Well, this is
Right.
just the way I am. Well, that's just the way you are on your own now, because that's bullshit.
That's what
Um,
you're gonna be by yourself.
that's what you're gonna do.
So
You're
it's
gonna be
funny.
by
So it's funny you said that, man, because you were saying how you noticed in your relationship, you noticed how she had these tactics almost. It was like she had these responses, these coping mechanisms. She had these things that was all based on survival, and you were doing much of the same. And I agree
yeah,
with that. I think I would tell you that I think that I would say 80% of the problems that we deal with in relationships today are because of our own unresolved traumas. I think a
yeah,
lot of that is because we are, because I was thinking about the topic earlier, man, when you were talking about it, and I was thinking about it, was like, you think about survival, right? You said they go from moment to moment to moment, right?
yeah.
Think about this. There's a couple of thoughts here, right? The first one is when you're in survival mode, you're literally in a constant state of desperation. Think about that.
Very. It's a way more elegant way to put it than I did. I like it.
I'm
I like it.
just saying, like, I mean, yeah, yeah. I'm saying, like, you're in a constant state of desperation, and when you're desperate, you're willing to do all kinds of anything in order just to make it. And I think that's kind of what you said. You were saying how they're doing, and they don't care who they hurt. You become selfish. You're doing anything and everything you can just to survive. And I think that is, it is interesting because the other thought that I was thinking was, the more you do that, think about it, because you're in this constant state of desperation and this constant state of stress, because really in the back of your mind subconsciously, when you're in a desperate situation, being from the war, when you're in a situation where, I mean, you think about combat, right? When you're in a high intensity environment, high intense situation, you're constantly boom, 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 and things don't stop until they stop.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
And so
Um,
really you're in the same mind. It's almost, I mean, literally it's in the same concept where you're adding this back of your mind. There's this stress in the back of your head constantly. And so it only becomes worse and becomes more, it only really actually hurts you worse because down the road think about it, you even become weaker and weaker and weaker because the more you're stressing, the more you're desperate, the more you're surviving. And think about it, you have no thoughts of the future. You're not thinking about how this affects me down the road. You're just like,
no,
look. I just need this right now. You know what I mean? Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I think, and playing back on the trauma thing, it doesn't have to be like we're all vets. So we talk about the war. The war is the biggest thing that was going on for the last 20
right,
years for
right.
all of us. But people outside the war have a lot of trauma too.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
you know, One thing, and I talked about this with several other people about is people not developing coping mechanisms early on in their lives.
Hmm.
And I bring it up nowadays because I feel like the generation coming up behind us is going to have a lot harder time coping with big things
Yeah,
because they seem bigger. We've become a society of instant gratification. You have Amazon, you got Netflix, you got anything you want at your fingertips. I mean, I'm talking on my cell phone,
right,
across the country to you right now.
right.
Um, you know, 15 years ago, we didn't do this. We didn't. I was writing snail mail home. Waiting 6 weeks on a letter. Waiting
Yeah,
to see if I got that breakup letter first.
right.
But these younger kids coming up behind us are going to start missing more steps when it comes to their development on how to handle failure, basically.
Mm.
And if you don't learn how to cope with failure, then dude, life gets harder. It doesn't get
Yeah.
easier. It gets harder, and so worse and worse things are going to happen to you. And you're going to fall into a survival mentality because you're just you're basically chasing that. I need to feel good. I want to feel validated. I need to survive this test. I need to survive this
Mm-hmm.
relationship. I need to survive this, whatever it is, trying to start your own business. You fail a little bit and then you give up, as opposed to, you listen to some of these older,
Hmm.
there's a guy that I see talk a lot, Gary V. I don't know. I see him on
Yeah,
Facebook. I
yeah,
see
yeah.
him
I know
on,
you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The business
you know,
guy.
yeah, and he's always talking about, he's like, I love failing. I'm not going to sit here and say I love to fail, but I definitely see where he's coming from. Like, it's okay
Mm.
to like fuck up a little bit. It's okay to make a mistake and, not get everything right on the first try. It's that continuation. It's that adapting to what's happening. So why did I fail this time? And what can I do to make sure I don't fail next time? As opposed to,
Mm.
I failed this time. Let me go do something else. And then if I fail that, I'll do something else. So on and so forth. And I think you can apply that to any part of your life, whether it be your, schooling, job, career, relationships,
Yeah.
your hobbies. How many people
Right.
give up on a hobby because they don't
So
naturally start
yeah,
out?
they mess up, but they mess something up for sure. I think so. So it's funny you say that, man. I was thinking about like, they call this particular generation, they call them, I forget what it's called. It's called like they're called like the great, shoot, can't think of it. But basically, this particular generation has a high level of quitting, right? Like quitting is like on a whole nother level in this. Like they quit jobs. Like right now, they were talking about the job market. Like they quit jobs like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the moment it gets uncomfortable, oh, I'm done. Same thing
hmm
with relationships. I watch some of these young teenagers I've worked with and stuff, and I see early on, like as soon as a relationship gets a little bit difficult, they quit.
yeah,
It's over. Like I can't deal with that because it's not, yeah, like you said, it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel good, and I think a lot of that comes from the conditioning of the culture. I mean, we've
yeah,
conditioned them to where everybody gets a trophy. You're not allowed to lose. You're not allowed to fail. Everybody has to win. Or yeah, I agree, Josh. Or it gets hard. Or yeah, unhealthy defense. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like we are we are in a place where if we can't understand think about this, if you can't understand how to adapt to failure and grow through that failure, then you will by default fall into this place of survival.
absolutely,
you'll
at
you'll
100%
fall
every single time.
you because think about it, you could be somebody who's very resilient and strong and all of that kind of stuff, but then if you haven't developed those coping mechanisms, if you haven't developed a solid foundation over some time, then think about it. Failure on top of failure on top of failure. And if you have not worked and taken some time to understand how to deal with that failure, then those failures can add up. You can deal with the first few, but then that fourth one and that fifth one and that sixth one pushes you over the edge, and then you fall into that desperation.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Um,
Absolutely. Yes.
and
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I,
Someone said something that hurts their feelings and stuff, too. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. People get their feelings hurt all the time, man. I was notorious for hurting people's feelings, just kind of like what I do. Um, You know, leave your feelings at the door if we're going to hang out, especially if we're, you know, if we're drinking together. I'm going to bust your balls. It's going to happen. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's got something they're insecure about, and I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
But,
True. And so my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you just said something. Hey, insecurity is a big reason why people fall into survivability and adaptability. Insecurity, because think about this, insecurity is oftentimes one of the hinge pins that causes people to fall into survivability.
absolutely. People get insecure about things that it's crazy how insecure people have gotten nowadays, as opposed to how I feel, you know, people were even before our generation. They're insecure about everything, and I think that that probably has to do with more of this digital age where everybody's online all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
can't scroll for 5 minutes without coming across guys and chicks that are just, you know, they're what we consider the epitome of like beauty or even success. You know, it doesn't need to have to
Right.
be sexualized. It's just how they look as a concept of
Right.
success. You know, you want money, you want all the stuff, you want the cars, you want everything. And that's, I think that puts a lot of pressure on people coming up. They're like, how do I get to that? You know,
Right.
they don't realize that a lot of that's fake. You know, a lot of those
Right.
people don't
True.
have that money. They don't actually look that good. It's airbrush and stuff like that. I actually just started talking to somebody recently. She does, she competes as a fitness model.
Nice.
I think the division she does is wellness. She explained it to me
Yeah.
the other day.
Right. Okay.
I've only ever been familiar with like bodybuilding because, you know, I used to
Right.
follow Ronnie Coleman and all them back in
Right.
the
Right.
day,
Right.
you know. But I mean, this girl is like, you know, spot on where she's like, I got to eat at this time. This is how much food I can have. I have to have this much water. I have to get to the gym this time. I have to go to sleep at this time. You know,
Right.
it takes a lot of discipline. You know, and just
Yeah.
having a private conversation with her, she's talking about how she, you know, she does kind of suffer from. I think everybody in the fitness industry does a little body dysmorphia, you know, because
Mhm.
they never feel like they're good enough. They're always trying to improve.
Right.
Is that healthy or unhealthy? You can look at it both ways. It's
Right.
healthy for what they're trying to do because they should
Right.
always be trying to improve. It's unhealthy for the day that they quit. She had a couple minor setbacks these last couple weeks, and just talking to her, you know, you could just tell like it's very emotionally and mentally
Right.
draining. You know, I didn't eat as good yesterday, or I got dehydrated, or I've been sick
Right.
and I missed the gym or something. You know, and in the scheme of all these months of prepping, you know, working out, it doesn't seem like a lot, but to them, when you get to that, I think she's 5 weeks out from her show.
Right.
Um, for her, that's devastating, you
Right.
know. But what I told her, I mean, but she's very disciplined. She's very passionate about it, and she's very hard on herself. You know, you don't have to be the
Right.
person that tells her she fucked up. She'll just come to you and be like, I fucked up. You know, I didn't
Right.
eat good today, or I didn't hydrate enough, or
Right.
this or this or this or this or this. You know,
Right.
and I find it very admirable. I think it's a really good trait
Yeah.
that you look for in a partner. That
Right.
basically you don't have to hold her accountable. She's over there holding
Well,
herself
yourself accountable.
accountable.
Right.
You know, um, and you know, and that to me, she has more of the adaptability because as she's running into these I don't want to say minor roadblocks. I don't want to take away from what she's
Right.
doing,
Right.
but
No, I got you. Yeah.
from these obstacles that she's running
Right.
into as the weeks close in, you know, she continues to go. She's still going to the gym. She's still, you know, doing her
Right.
best to eat on time what she's
Yeah.
supposed to eat. And to me, it's kind of like watching that process of adapting to it. You know, if
Right.
she was a survivor, she would simply just survive from whatever to whatever. And honestly, she probably would have given up by now if she
Right.
was just a
But yeah, for
survivor
sure. I mean,
because
I
it
think
takes
it's only so long. Right. There's only so long that you can be in survival mode. And I think if we look at it from, and it's so funny because I think there's so many things, but you were talking about that. I was just thinking about how, you know, we can, so comparison will absolutely push us into that survival mode, right?
yeah,
When we fall into the trap of comparison, like I have to be like this. I have to be like that. You know, now you can admire something, but it doesn't have to become you. Yeah, I mean, like,
exactly.
I think the problem is that a lot of times that one of the reasons that we fall into survival mode, not just from a trauma perspective, it could be from a perspective of I am so desperate to be what I think or deem to be that thing which is success or beauty or whatever the case is, that we put ourselves in this position of taking on more than we can handle. For one, that's a big one. We begin to put all this weight on ourselves and pressure on ourselves, trying to claw our way up to this place when the reality is it's one step at a time. You know what I mean? When the
Oh
reality
yeah,
is it's not a matter of something you can just do tomorrow. But think about it. If you look, like what they say, there's an old quote that says like if you look too far ahead, you'll fall. I thought that, and I think that's I heard it somewhere years ago, but I thought it was interesting. If you lean too far ahead, you'll fall. And I thought that was an interesting concept. Like a lot of times we can stretch ourselves so thin trying to reach this goal, which is not saying it's unattainable. But if we don't understand where we are at the moment, then we'll push ourselves too far and end up falling on our faces. And now we're crawling and getting back up and crawling and getting back up and falling again. Instead of, okay, I failed. Let me dust myself off. Let me get myself situated. I tried to go a little too fast. It's like babies when they're first learning how to run. You know what I mean? It's like when they first get up and they get going, they take 3 steps on their face. And you're like, look at you. You know what I mean? And they get back up, fall again. But the reality is that so many human beings in adulthood are stuck in that mindset because they could not accept the fact that right now I may not be able to run.
Yeah.
Right now I need to walk. And then once I walk, then I can run. Then once I run, then I can jump, and so on and so forth. And I think we try to put too much on ourselves, and it can just push us over into that survival mode and that desperation, and falling short of, or not so much falling short, but falling into this. And here's the thing: when you're in constant survival and you're in constant stress, you're constantly desperate. You're constantly feeling the weight of this pressure. Then that pressure turns into depression.
Yeah.
See how that? Oh, you see how that switch? Because it's funny. There's it's funny in the Bible they refer to depression. It's referred to as the spirit of heaviness, and I think that's interesting. That's an interesting concept because if you think about it, that's really what it feels like. It's this weight that you just can't seem to get off of you. And a lot of that can come from being in this place of constant survival. You may not be sad. You could just be completely broken and tired. And so then that pressure is pushing you down and further away from who you once were and who you could be.
No,
Hey,
dude,
what's up, Rejected 504? Welcome.
No, 100%, man. Hey, Ashley, 100%, dude. People allow. So on one hand, there is mental illness, all right? So
Correct.
you can't deny the existence of mental illness, but also in more recent times, we have romanticized having an illness. It's romantic to be depressed. It's romantic to be bummed out. Okay?
Say it loud for the people in the back.
So we are conditioning people, almost every day to be like, no one just gets sad anymore. Like my grandmother died a few years ago. That makes me sad. Okay. Right when it happened, I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. I'm still just sad. I didn't feel depressed, or maybe I was depressed in the moment. Now, overall, it still hurts and I think about her and I miss her, but like my life has gone on and I'm continuing to live my life, but we're conditioning people that once again, if you don't adapt to situations, adapting to my life without my grandparents, I adapted to it. Now I live my life without them. I think about them and I miss that life. That's my old life. I got a new life now.
Yeah.
Same thing with everything else. When we tell people that, oh, you're depressed and, here's some medicine and, you're not going to be okay. We're basically taking the responsibility out of their hands to teach themselves how to be an adult, how to be a human being. And so so once again, we're teaching them how to survive. We're not teaching them how to adapt. All right.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And that plays back into the selfishness part. When you are a survivor, you are inherently selfish. You don't mean to be selfish. It might not even appear to be selfish to you because you're so used to just taking care of you or you in this immediate small group of whatever, but you're a selfish person. And that means when it comes time to survive again, anything that hasn't made the cut in the past doesn't make the cut in the future, whether it be a person you're in a relationship with, friends, even family members at some point. It's basically a whole culture of just being. Exactly, Ashley. There's almost non-existent coping mechanisms.
Almost non-existent. So it's funny. It reminds me. So I remember. So this is totally embarrassing, but it's hilarious. So I had to do. So when I was getting out, they made me do like swim call, like one last time. So it was like my last swim call, right? So I'm not a good swimmer. Never have been. I just wasn't. Like it just ain't in my blood, not to be stereotypical, but I'm one of them stereotypes. You know what I mean? Like I am. I just wasn't there. So I can't even float. Like I get in the water, I literally walk straight to the bottom, and it is what it is. So
Yeah.
if we ever in on the boat somewhere that we fall out, bro, I ain't gonna be able to save
Nah,
you.
man, I'm gonna get you a life jacket, brother. Get you a life
Iron
jacket.
Duck for sure. I was an Iron Duck. And so this is so wait, okay. This is so bad. So I remember in recruit training, I'll never forget this. When they came in there and made the call for all the Iron Ducks to come out. And I was like, I guess that's me. I was so bad from like a cultural standpoint because the only people that stepped out were the black dudes in the platoon. You go outside and it's just a sea of darkness. And I'm like, and it's like this one white dude. I'm like, bro, we gotta do better.
Look, man,
But
some stereotypes are just
I'm
true.
telling you, it was so bad. I was like, bro, come on, man. We gotta, this is ridiculous. I made the play. I said, I'm going to get some swimming lessons immediately. But check this out. So look, so check this out. But tying all this together. We had to do the swim call when we were in New Orleans. And so we down there. We had to go in there, and we had to do a little, set up and all that stuff. You go on the diving board, you got to walk
Mhm.
off walk off the edge. So I remember, when you step off, you have to you keep your arms down. For those who are maybe not military who don't know, in Marine Corps, like you have to keep your arms like this, and you can't like do this or none of that crazy stuff. You just walk in, you step off in. And so you get down in there, right? So I drop down in there, and I went into, as they say, survival mode, right? So I dropped down, and I mean, I like used every bit of strength. When I got in the water, they tell you to do one big push to get yourself back up to the top,
Yeah.
get yourself situated, and then make your way out the pool. I'm like, all right, I'm ready, cool. Went, yeah.
Just did, straight to the bottom, huh?
Bro, I went straight to the bottom. I hit the big swipe, and I ain't make it to the top. And I was like, wait a minute. Here we go again. And I'm like the edge is like right here. I'm like, so I start like getting my duck on. Yeah, I start getting my flying fish on. I'm like, bro, I ain't coming up. This is ridiculous. So I mean, I'm going hard. I'm like, whoa, trying to get out the water, trying to get out the water. And like, here's the crazy part. Tell me why. Finally, I heard like somebody had to like grab me, and they were like, Reese, you're out the water. Bro, I was like halfway body out the water, like I was flying out the water. They were like, you've been out the water the whole time. I was like, no, I wasn't. I was under the water. The crazy part about it is when you get into survival mode, you can't think rationally. And not only can you not think rationally, you lose all sense of your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only can you lose all sense of surroundings, not only do you not think rationally, but check this out, you will push away everybody trying to help you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Ooh, and man, and just talking about the conversation made me think about that story, and I thought it was funny, but it's so real and relevant. We have so many people who live like they out the water, like they in the water, and they think they're in
Yeah.
the. And a lot of times we can create things in our minds because we're in this mode of survival.
Well, it's almost like they're sitting down in the shallow end of the pool. If you want to
Right,
stick
right.
with that analogy, you see a lot of that stuff on the internet. All the memes and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and where they barely got their head above water like they're drowning, but then there's all this stuff under the water, and it's all personal shit that's holding them down. So,
Correct.
you stumble across, you kind of stumble, and we all kind of stumble through life trying to figure shit out as we go along, right? Because there's no manual.
Right.
But what I've learned is that you can be successful, you can accomplish your goals, you can better yourself, and you don't have to destroy anybody around you. If anything, I think what makes you more successful is if you can bring people with you,
Mm-hmm.
or minimum, don't do any damage to the outside. If you have to damage yourself to fix yourself, by all means, do what you need to do. But at the most, don't drag people down with you. Don't drag down the people that care about you with you.
Right. Right.
You know,
Right.
and sometimes like just some of the past experiences, it just amazes me like how much you can help somebody, because you
Mm-hmm.
see them, they're struggling more than you might be struggling, but maybe you've got it
Right.
to a point where
Right.
you got a little bit left for someone else.
Right.
And because someone's in survival mode, they don't recognize that you're sacrificing what could be used to
Right.
better yourself
Yeah.
to help better
Yeah.
them, and they drag you down,
Yeah.
and then at the end of it, they don't even realize what they've done. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like
True.
it's so alien to them. They're like, I I didn't ask you to do that for me. I didn't do that,
Mm,
and
mm.
stuff like that. And you're just like,
Yeah,
wow, just
it's
hit me with this a little
that's
bit
so
harder next
good.
time. Yeah,
You said it's so alien to me. It's so foreign to me. You know, it's funny they say real recognize real, and you looking real unfamiliar. That can go the other way around too. I don't recognize what I have in front of me. I don't
yeah,
recognize the help that I'm getting. I remember I was working with teenagers. I was working this underserved youth, you know, down in the hood and all that stuff. And this blew my mind, bro. I remember we were playing basketball. I used to run this gym, and kids come in, open gym, you know, they do their thing. But they used to come in. I brought them off the street, right? And they brought this ball. This ball was just, bro, dumb. Like, this ball was worse than anything I've ever seen in my life. Like, this basketball was just falling apart, big panels hanging off, and they're in there playing with it. And I said, yo, all right, I got something for you. I went and I brought a good ball. Like, I mean, top of the line, NBA level, you know, not NBA, but Evolution. And it was nice, smooth, comfortable, all that, right? So I brought it to him. And I said, yo, game ball. You know, I'm all excited and happy, like, yeah,
yeah,
this is $60 basketball. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah,
check this out. And they caught it and they were like, whoa, look at this ball. This is crazy. You know, they've never even seen nothing like that. And they're like, yo,
yeah.
this ball feel weird almost. But I'm like, but that's a good ball right there. You know, do your thing. I walked out the gym. I came back 10 minutes later. Tell me why that ball was on the side of the gym and they were back to playing with that old raggedy joint. And I was
Comfort.
like, what y'all doing? What? But guess what? It's because they were like, what? And remember the kid told me, man, coach, I'll be honest with you. I'm just used to this ball, man. I can't really dribble with that ball. I can't shoot with that ball. But
It's a
it'll make you
ball.
think. When you've lived in this certain way so long, when you've lived in this place of this is what I'm used to, this is what I'm comfortable with, this is what I know, then when something better comes along, you won't even recognize it as better because it feels weird. Yeah, I mean, just that's like same thing with relationships. Uh-oh, when that good person comes along, but you're so used to drama, you're so used to tension, you're addicted to all that. And so
Yeah,
then when somebody good comes along, they're so unfamiliar. That's like when girls like the nice guy finishes last and he's not interesting and all that stuff. That's because you're used to drama.
yeah.
You've got a taste for drama. But as you much, wait, I got one more phrase just hit me.
You're on fire
And I
tonight,
was thinking
man.
about it. When I was a kid, right, I used to not like cheese at all, bro. Like I ain't like cheese that much. I ate
What's
it, but
wrong?
I ain't like it. Like, yeah, I wasn't into it. But as I've gotten older, one day I hit a certain age and it was just like I was craving cheese. I'm like, what's going on? I thought maybe I needed some calcium or something. But now, like like cheese is like legit for me. But you know, as you get older, your body changes, right? Your chemistry changes, your appetites and all that stuff can change, right?
Yeah,
Check this out. And as I thought about it, I said, man, if that don't preach, you ready for this? As you mature, your appetites change. And so what happens is you have people that unfortunately they're so used to this, and when something good comes along, they have come to a place where like I can't even my appetite has changed so much because I've grown so deeply in this area. And so now the good thing that I should be used to, the good thing that's in front of me, I can't even stand the smell of it
yeah.
because I've been this way, you know, or I was this way and I've grown to live in this place of survival. And so now my appetite has changed. You know what I mean? And so
Oh yeah.
now, like, I don't even know what to do with myself. And so it's just interesting, and people reject good love right in front of them just because it's so different.
Well, it's not even just relationships. They just
Yeah,
reject good situations,
yeah,
period. You might reject a good job because you're just not used to it. Like you go to a job and it just seems too good to be true.
mm-hmm.
Or you find a reason not to like it because that's what you're used to. You're just used to going to work and bitching about your job. I like
Mm-hmm.
being a paramedic on the street, but I stopped liking it after a while, and so I quit and I went and found something better. Do I have problems with my job now? Fuck yeah, I got a long ass. I'm sorry. I don't. Can we say fuck out here? I don't know. We're gonna say it anyway until they kick us off. Um, of course, I had problems with my new job, man. But at the same time, like I look at the cost benefit to it. Financial freedom, financial stability. Downside, I'm away from home a long time. I'd really like to get. I'd like to find a happy medium. I'd like to find a place where I can make good money and not have to live in the Middle East,
Right,
essentially for 10 months out of the year.
right.
It's hard to keep relationships going, friendships going, and
For
stuff like that.
sure, for
People
sure.
forget about you, man. Like it's fine,
Man, you ain't said nothing but the word, boy. That's
you
crazy,
know.
man.
but it extends so far past relationships. You know, if you want to talk about relationships for a minute, you know, I just wonder like what. Well, let's roll back. I think about it like this. Like when I look at relationships, I look at everything that not only has been done to me in the past, but you have to look at what you've done in the past. Like what unhealthy things have you done? What wrong things have you done?
Right.
How did you treat your partner poorly? How did you hurt them? You know, what worked and what didn't work? You know, and what I've started to realize is people don't spend enough time getting to know each other. Like we have that, like we talked about last time, that infatuation phase, right? So that infatuation phase covers up the adaptability of your relationship. You have to have a problem, I think, early on. How do you react to each other? Are you going to argue? Are you going to is someone going to eat their pride and apologize? Are you guys going to sit down and just give it a mulligan and just walk the fuck away and be like, you know what? That was just a bad time.
Yeah, well, this wasn't it.
That one from the books. All right, that was not me. Recently I've had to say this a few times. I'm like, y'all gonna have to take that up with drunk Alex. All right, like sober Alex wasn't there. All right.
Yeah.
One of the people watching knows exactly what I'm talking about. And you know, and it's just one of those things that, you know, before I start telling people or, you know, trying to preach to people or anything about like, well, you're living your life wrong. Like, it's only because I've looked into myself and I saw the shitty things that I did and I don't want to do them anymore. I don't want to be a part of them anymore. And I don't want to be around them anymore.
Right.
You know, I want to do. So I'm totally fine with, you know, talking to people about, hey, this is where I fucked up in my life, my past relationships, my past jobs, just how I was being an adult. And this is where I am now. And I'm only here now because I understood that I was doing business poorly. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it's just one of those things that you have to tear yourself down first in order to be able to talk to people, to tell people like, hey, man, I only know that this isn't going to work out because I've been there and I looked inside myself. And I'm no longer a survivor. Now I adapt to situations, you know. Like I said, I just met somebody recently. And like when I say I met somebody recently, I barely met them. And I'd had something happen in my past where I kind of let an opportunity walk by. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna talk to this girl. I'm going to slide her my number, you know. I slid her my number and like shit went good, you know, out of nowhere. Didn't have to go good. It probably shouldn't have even gone good, but it did because I didn't let that opportunity walk away. So it's definitely one of the things I'm not going to regret doing with my life. But that's only because I've let stuff walk away before, or I've treated a partner badly, or, you know, I haven't been understanding. I haven't been willing to sit there and talk about things. You talk about red flags. Red flags is also a part of adaptability versus survivability. If you're a survivor, you probably come with more red flags than you can actually see.
Yeah.
You know, now that I've entered into that more adaptable phase of my life, what I've realized is that like because it's a red flag for this relationship or this friendship or even this job doesn't make it a red flag in every situation, job, and relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Big concept.
It's a maturity thing because not everything fits inside of a box and works out well. You know, you have to realize that everybody has lived a different life. They have different morals. They have a different view on things. And if they're actually willing to sit there and talk to you about what goes on in their lives, they have a situation that you're not comfortable with or something new, then you've got to be willing to listen because they're being open enough to tell you like, this is what goes on. This is what works for me. Is this something that you can work around? You have to ask yourself yes or no. Like I said, that applies to relationships, that applies to jobs, it applies to everything in life.
I think it applies to everything, bro. I agree. You know what I mean? My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just thinking about like, you know, I think it applies to everything. We even look from a like you said something earlier I thought was interesting. You said that two things you said. One was accountability and responsibility for self. I mean, I think that is a big deal. I think when we don't take responsibility for ourselves and our own actions, and we don't take accountability for the things and wrongs that we've done, what happens is, believe it or not, I think it disrespects our own souls. And I think it hurts us even more, and we can almost traumatize ourselves because we are fooling ourselves. We're deceiving ourselves into thinking that we've been in these situations where it's always somebody else is the problem, and never take the time to think about the fact that we might be the problem. But if we avoid the idea that we might be the problem, then what happens is that now we deceive ourselves, and then while you're walking around blinded by your own arrogance, then you fall into this hole, and now you've fallen off the cliff, and now you're in survival mode constantly because you don't want to accept the fact that you're the one that actually jumped off the edge, you know, or pushed the person away that could have helped you back,
Yeah.
and I think that's real, man. I mean, I think that, you also, you mentioned how that applies to everything. I mean, we look at society and culture, not just, like I said, not just relationships, but you look at, when we talk about things like people coming from maybe a broken background, or coming from, a broken neighborhood or something like that. Like the kids I dealt with, like, they live in this constant state of like desperation and survival mode. And the thing about it is that it's not even that they can't be successful, is they don't even think that that's a possibility. That's not even a thought that
Yeah.
even comes on their, that's not even a thought that comes in their mind. Like, there is no, like, it's not even the fact that they're avoiding this idea. It's the fact that that idea doesn't even exist.
Well, to go off of that, and specifically about like the type of kids that you're talking about, who's out there telling them they can be successful? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that's the problem. There's nobody out there saying like, hey man, you had a shitty beginning, but you don't have to end this way. There needs to be
Right.
more people going to these, going to these neighborhoods like you're doing. Go to these neighborhoods like, hey man, you don't always have to dribble with the same ball. You can get this ball. This can be yours. And that can be like, I don't know, you can use it as a metaphor for life. But
Right.
you sit there and you're basically telling them like, oh, you had a bad ride, you're never gonna, people just don't make it out. You
Yeah.
can make it out. You can absolutely make it out. But you got to want to get out, and you've got to be willing to hurt yourself. You got to be willing to
Absolutely.
hurt yourself to get out. I'm not talking about like cutting yourself and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's going
You
to hurt a
know,
little bit. You don't have to work.
it's going to be uncomfortable. You've got to, in order to be adaptable, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You
Mm-hmm.
have to put yourself into uncomfortable situations.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, apply that across the spectrum, from your
Absolutely.
relationships to your jobs to just your life in general. If you
Right.
can get comfortable or just be okay being uncomfortable for periods of time, you're going to be more successful, because that's where the best growth is going to come from.
Yeah.
Relationship wise, everybody wants someone who's home all the time. They want you in the same state, the same country, the same whatever, but you meet somebody out of state and you're like, well, damn, this is a pretty good opportunity. Instead of sitting there worrying about the logistics of it, like, wow, let's just make this work. Let's just do it.
Right.
Like, let's
Right.
let's do it. Let's do a little short
Right.
term pain for
Right.
longer term gain,
Yeah.
and see where things go. Same thing with a job. I had to quit my job. I was broke. I was broke as shit when I first left to go overseas. Like, I was eating peanut butter out of a jar for 3 days. I
Yeah.
had no money. I was
Right.
I was I was hungry. But I was uncomfortable for weeks. And then once that first contractor paycheck hit,
Yeah.
I wasn't hungry no more. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, I
Right.
was uncomfortable because it was either
Right.
like stay in the same grind, work 2 paramedic jobs. I was also
Right.
working as a private investigator. Dude, I was broke. It was hard, and I just picked up and I left, and it was
Yeah.
extremely uncomfortable. It was harder than leaving for the Marine Corps.
Right.
It was hard. I'm not gonna say it was as hard as the war, but like emotionally
Right.
and mentally, dude, like
Yeah.
just
Emotionally. Right.
being that dependent on
Right.
money and not having any was really hard, because I was behind
Yeah.
on bills and stuff like that. But like, I stuck with it, and I whole 180.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, I'm like, dude, that was what, like, to me now, I was like, that wasn't even a hard choice. Like, why did I have trouble with that? Why did
Right.
I feel so uncomfortable?
Right.
Because it
Because
wasn't
you
like
made it through.
I was used to hustling. I was
Right.
used to working 28
Right.
days out of the month, and like,
Right.
pulling in a certain amount of money, be like, oh my God, I can't believe I made this much money. But dude, you're working 12-hour days, and a 12-hour shift ain't 12 hours. You got the time you get up to go to work and the
Yep.
time before you go to bed after work. So you're talking about 14 to 16-hour days,
Yeah.
28 days out of the month.
Right.
And people get addicted to this because that's what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I was trying to recruit guys to come overseas with me as medics, and like, basically, like, the pay bump from a street paramedic to a paramedic
Right.
working in Baghdad
Very
is
different.
is very different. And these guys were like, no man, I can't leave home. I was like, bro, dude, you literally worked all 30 days of this month. How much damn family time do you have? Like, how much time are you awake when you go home at night? So you're
Right.
telling me you can't sit down with your wife or your family and be like, look, I'm going to leave for about 4 months, but after that, we don't have to hustle. I don't have to work 30 days out of the month anymore. I'm going to have
Right.
these weekends off. I'm going to be able to spend time with you. We're going to pay this house off. or pay off your biggest piece of debt or whatnot. You know,
Right.
be comfortable being uncomfortable, and you're going to make it a lot further in life.
Absolutely. I think that's vital. And it's so vital. Like, you have to be pliable, man. You have to be willing to say, you have to be willing to accept where you are. I think that's the biggest thing. Accept where you are first, but then be very clear in your mind that this is not the end. I think
Yeah,
I think when we accept the idea that this is the end, we're done. Like, you're toast. Once you've given up any hope that there is a future, whatever that future may be, it's done. And you fall into survival, because I think people go into survival because they're afraid of what's possible. Mm,
yeah.
yeah, wow, that's a
There can,
concept.
there can absolutely be
People,
a fear of success. Yeah,
you're afraid of success. You're afraid of what's possible. If you actually were to accept your circumstances and then take some risk and get out there and get after it, what could happen? Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? What if? And people, I think that fear, because fear cures more dreams than failure ever will. And so I think many people are afraid of what's possible. I'm afraid. Here you go. I'm afraid of being vulnerable in a relationship. I'm afraid of opening myself up in this situation because I don't know how they will accept it, or so on and so forth. And then what happens is then you have these bottled up and pent up emotions, and now you're constantly pushing them down. Now you're falling in desperation. Now you're back in survival mode because you're just trying to get through the day. Like, it's so interesting how the thing that gives us the most anxiety, which is taking the risk, is the very thing that is necessary to almost alleviate the anxiety. Because when you take
absolutely.
the risk and you jump, and like you say, you were eating peanut butter for 3 days because, like, it is what it is. But I accepted that and say, I'm gonna keep grinding, and I know one day this thing is gonna come through. So when it comes through, and when it did, then you're like, oh shoot, that peanut butter was worth it.
Yeah, I
But
still
see,
like
we
peanut butter
just
too. Still like peanut
yeah,
butter.
hey, yeah, and people get so caught up and get people get caught in the peanut butter. All they see is the fact that all I got is peanut butter right now. And then they can't
Mm,
see the fact that I got this contract coming, I got this coming, I got to go. All they see is, oh my gosh, I can't believe all I have is this. I'm stuck here, and this is it for me. And
yeah,
now, instead of people grinding to build a situation where they can have a meal, they begin to work for another jar of peanut butter. They
yeah. They
work
grind.
jars at a time. Jars. Oh, all I can do right now is a peanut butter jar. So I'm gonna just try to get this peanut butter jar, and that's it. And they don't see that it's possible for you to get more. And I think, yeah, that's good, man. That's good, man. I think that we have a whole society in survival mode, man. And then it doesn't help that you got your
Absolutely.
favorite. Then it doesn't help that we have our wonderful government that makes it so easy for us to do what we got to do, and handle our business and live life
Absolutely.
so comfortably and wonderfully.
It's
Um, you
it's
know,
so easy nowadays. You trying to get me
yeah,
fired from my job, bro? Don't talk. Big
yeah,
Brother's watching. Come on.
yeah, right. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
no,
wonderful.
it's people get comfortable grinding, and they
Yeah,
like we've been talking about the whole time. They just survive. They survive till the next paycheck, till the next meal, till the next partner, till the next relationship. People use relationships too. They
yeah,
don't know how to be on their own and be single for a little while and
yeah,
be okay with being alone. And so they're serial relationships, man. They jump
yeah,
from one guy or one girl to the next.
yeah.
That's equally as unhealthy as any
Agreed.
other trait that you have. If you can't just sit back and be single for a little bit and just kind of be like, all right, I'm single. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and be a hoe. I mean, if you want to, that's on you. Like, do whatever you do when you're single. It's
That's
whatever.
your business.
Whatever happens between consenting adults is fine, But take some time and, like, I don't know, fucking read a book. Watch a documentary. One thing I will steer people away from is all this self-help stuff that's being flooded into social media and stuff like that. I just say be very careful with it. Take what works for you and then move on, as opposed to finding the first video that makes you feel good and then basically conforming your life to somebody else's point of view, because it may not,
Mm,
like I said, nothing fits in a tight box, and that stuff can be
right.
just as toxic as drugs, just as toxic as any other type of
Yeah.
behavior. Because once
Addicted to
again,
self-help stuff.
once again, you're surviving again because you get selfish and you want to change your life, and you got to cut all the things out that you don't think fit in your new life. Not even if they're unhealthy or whatnot,
Mhm.
they just don't fit anymore in your new life. Don't lose friends and family and loved ones over over a video you saw on YouTube for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It ain't
And
worth it.
wait. Here's the crazy part. So then here's the survival mode right here. You're jumping from motivational video to motivational video. You're jumping from self-help person to self-help person. And at the end of the day, you can't make a decision for yourself.
Absolutely no.
At the end of the day, you can't think for yourself. You can't walk for yourself. You can't talk for yourself. At the end of the day, you can't make a conscious, you can't even process the world because all you see is through the eyes of this person that you idolize. Mm. And, 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 and,
No,
and,
100%.
and everybody's path and tactics don't necessarily work for you. Are there simple basic standards? Sure. Discipline is important.
Absolutely.
Those kind of things are important. But when you get into these nuanced things, and everybody's got some 7 steps to rich and 20 steps to peace and 48 steps to, being a billionaire and 87 steps to being happy and all these steps to do everything. The reality is everybody's journey is different. But at the end of the day, your journey, you should adapt to the fact that, okay, I'm at the bottom of the mountain right now. I see
Yeah.
all these people making all their ways up this mountain. And they're going all these different concepts and all these different practices and all these different strategies and all these different things. And I see the people who are just jumping and struggling for dear life and trying to, work their way up. I see the people who throw the ropes all the way up to like the top and then they pull them way up. I see all these different concepts. At the end of the day, you have to do what works for you. But understand that at the end of the day, regardless of what they're doing, what works for you is what matters and is going to be the most effective and get you to the goal that you want.
Yeah. Like I said, take what works for you. Even try it
Now, play
out.
it safe
But
and
you don't
watch
have to.
Cat Video.
You, you don't have to like mold your life to it. Back in the day, someone I knew. You know who Jocko Wilkinson is, right? The old
Yeah, yeah,
Navy
yeah,
SEAL
yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He did a couple books. He's all yoked up on probably like 500 cc's of tests each week, and good dude. I mean, he's great. He's a great speech, and I like his feelings on what is it? Ultimate ownership. He does his talk. He also has a book called Ultimate Ownership. He talks about his time as a SEAL commander in Fallujah, and I think they had a blue on blue incident. And
Right.
he's sitting around talking to his guys, trying to figure out what happened. And he has people apologize to him. He says, "Don't apologize to me. That's on me. I'm the leader. It's my fault."
Yeah.
Well, this person from my past who watched this video, was very big on ultimate ownership, taking ownership, taking ownership.
Right. Right.
I think there was a miscommunication when they
Mm.
were watching this video and listening to this guy, because he's speaking from a leadership position, as in he understands that there are other people that are affected by his decisions.
Right.
Okay. And he has to take responsibility for not only what he does, but what they do
Right.
as well. He
Right.
has an influence on them. So he has to do his best, not for himself, but because he has people he's in charge of. Now, you take that and you put that into the civilian world to somebody, who doesn't necessarily understand everything that they're reading or watching it, or can look from that point of view. You take that
Mhm.
person and all of a sudden, like, now they don't know how to apply that to a regular lifestyle. They
Right.
forget that the whole point, the whole premise of his speech was to talk about, as a human being, you have to take responsibility for not only what you do, but how and what you do, and it affects the people around you and
Right.
what that causes them to do. Because a
Right.
decision you make can cause somebody else to make a bad decision. That's on you
Yeah.
as well, to a certain extent.
Mhm.
Like I said, there's no box. It doesn't all fit nicely in a box. It's not one size fits all. It's just learning and applying things as they fit, not
Mhm.
making yourself fit around what you watch and
Mhm.
read. Because you can go watch 10 motivational videos tonight, and they're all going to be different. All right, so
Right.
what you going to do then? All right, you're just going to walk around in a circle,
Yeah.
looking retarded. So it's stuff like that. So I'm very weary about stuff like that. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. It's beneficial to watch stuff like that, get you yoked up or whatever before you go about your day.
Right.
But don't let it influence you to the point where, like, you have replaced, your God in heaven with, Jordan Peterson. I love
Right.
Jordan Peterson. He does
Right.
some awesome
Right.
stuff. His speech about be a monster is
Yeah.
amazing. All
Yeah.
right. Absolutely. Be a monster, dude. Be the best that you can be at whatever it is you want to do, and be so nasty at it that people can't even touch you. But take that and apply that, in regular ways and be like, but you don't have to fucking hurt people being an
Right, right.
asshole.
You don't have
All
to
right, you can
be
be the best
like,
at what unless like you're a fighter, unless you're like a UFC fighter, then by all means hurt all the people you come in contact with
right,
because that's your job,
right,
But as far as like your everyday human being, like you don't have to fucking walk around shitting on your fellow human
right,
beings just to prove how tough or hard
right.
you are,
Well, think about this. You think about this. I mean, think about how many guys you know what I'm talking about. Cats that, you in the Marine Corps, you big Billy Bag, you know what I'm saying? And then you get out and you walking around like, oh yeah, I'm I'm that guy. I was in the Marine Corps. I'm
yeah,
another. It's like, bro, you do understand that out here in the civilian world, don't nobody care. Like that
nobody gives
means
a shit.
absolute. That
Nobody
don't
cares.
mean a doggone thing. Oh, I was a staff sergeant in the Marines. Okay, go ahead and go to Walmart. Welcome to Walmart. Here's your, you know what I mean? Like here's your bag.
Yeah, all
Like
right, all
right.
right,
And it's like,
Randy.
I think we and here's a concept. Here's a concept. We could probably talk about this at another time, but getting out and the
Oh yeah,
transition to the civilian world and how we easily can fall into survival mode because it's
no,
such a different culture.
I think that'd be a good topic for a whole video on its own. Just because I just was talking to actually somebody who's watching right now. We were talking about the difficulties of people transitioning
Yeah,
out of the Marines or just the
yeah,
military in general. Obviously, we're more
yeah,
familiar with the Marines, but just transitioning out of the military in general and like just the pitfalls that you run into and what you actually miss versus what you think you miss about being in the
right.
military.
Yeah, yeah, for
You know, I,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. Getting out is was one of the best and worst days of my life.
Yeah,
It's just hard because you literally change your entire lifestyle
yeah,
overnight.
yeah. It's so weird, bro. I remember my first night. I was just like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm like, you don't even realize how deeply rooted and impacted the lifestyle is in you. And I remember I used to walk around. I had nothing to do, so I would walk around the mall. I was wondering, like I just I ain't gonna lie to you. I was like, yo, this is crazy because I ain't gonna lie to you. So like, and when we talk about that, I'll get more into detail. But
Hmm.
like I went all in, like psychologically, emotionally, and everything in the Marine Corps. So then when I got out, I was like, I used
What
to be talking to
a
people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's going on? You all
who
right?
am I?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Right. Tracking. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. I was like, what's wrong with me, bro? And I remember I was in the mall walking. I used to just go in the mall and just walk because I was like, man, I ain't got nothing to do. I ain't got no friends. I was like, bro, because I moved, like, because I left New Orleans. I got out. I went straight to Virginia, and then I ended up straight in Orlando. I
Yeah.
didn't know anybody. I had nobody, so I and I'm just there. And I used to walk around the mall, like watching, I'm looking around, like, I'm all head on the swivel, I'm like, what's going on? And I remember these kids who, they clean the shoes. The guys in the mall, they try to always ask you, can we clean your shoes? So they came up to me and was like, hey, bro, hey, can I ask you a question, bro? I'm like, yeah, yeah, what's going on? Like real, just like, yeah, 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 you gotta lock your freaking body,
Right.
like, I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he goes, hey, bro, what branch were you in? And I was like, what you mean? What branch I was in? I was like, I was in the Marines. He goes, bro, I knew it. He turned to his homeboys like, bro, I told you, bro. I'm like, dang, is it that bad? Like, is it that obvious? Do I
Oh
really
yeah.
look like a robot walking around? And you don't even realize that.
Mm-mm.
And then what's funny is then you can go and begin seeking things to get that same fulfillment that you had. You know what I mean? You can
Oh, you
go
want
seeking.
you want the camaraderie again. You want to find a group
Right.
of people that you like. That you want to do like really really bad things with, and that you would die for. And that's really hard to find. I tried to find it, on an ambulance. That didn't work out. Now I'm overseas, and like these guys are probably more degenerate than when I was in the military. And I would absolutely die for these guys in a heartbeat, and they would die for
Right.
you too. And it's way better with contractors because they don't want to die. They want to
Right.
get paid and go home. All right, so
Right.
there's no more like contractors aren't looking for glory. Okay, they're
Right.
looking
They're like,
for they're
bro,
looking
no,
for that
no.
paycheck. Now we ain't dying today, bro. We're gonna get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for
So
real, man. It's so different, bro. And I think just the ethical standard, bro. Just everything's different, bro. When you get out,
yeah,
it's just like you're just like, whoa, bro. Like I remember I went to college and I'm surrounded by all these little 18 and 19, 20-year olds who don't know up from down. They got the
kids.
clothes falling all off, kids. They can't even talk, and I'm like, bro, whoa. And they're like, I'm like, what? But anyway, that's another conversation we can
That's a
have a
whole. I
whole
think that should
another
be our
video
next
on
one.
that because I mean, there's so many aspects to that,
Do
especially in
do a video.
relationships.
We'll do a whole one on just like how to get out properly without losing your mind.
Right,
Like
right,
seven,
right.
get a job. I was lucky because I literally picked up my DD 214 in the morning, and then I started my first full time shift as an EMT that
Nice.
night. So I think I had a much smoother transition than a lot of
Yeah,
people had.
keep your mind
But
occupied.
I set it up that way. It just worked out that way because I got stationed here for my last 2 years. After I got done yelling at you guys on the rifle range, you guys
Yeah,
were
yeah.
scared as shit. You know, God, I
Good
cheated.
time.
I cheated. I didn't even knock the BZOs off the damn optics, and they still couldn't hit the target. Like, I'm cheating for you.
Yo, that was so funny. But we had some times on the rifle range, boy. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
That
there's
was
more
so
nights.
funny.
I
Huh?
remember showing up to that line in the morning so hungover. I'm like, why did I drink last night? That made me angrier. And then they
Hey,
can't
you.
shoot. And then they wouldn't fill out their goddamn data books.
Yeah, yeah. You remember? Hey, you. All right, we gotta go. But you remember?
Okay.
That little spot. Remember that little spot in Fort Pope? That little club, that little the little like strip over the middle, and you had yo, and they used to play the country versions of like Dougie and oh, yo, woo, that's hilarious. You had the folks in there. Yeah, take me on your buggy. Take me on your buggy. That joke was
Oh my
so
god,
funny.
dude. I
Oh
can't
man,
believe I can't believe I did that in my life. Oh my god.
I know, I
I
know.
mean,
Think about it, getting the tornadoes in the morning, the little tornadoes in the morning from the game. Sneak out there early and be like, all
it's the
right, get
only
on
thing
the
that made me
plane.
feel good after all that liquor, bro. Like, oh
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
All
that's
right, man.
hilarious. But anyway, man, hey, we got to get out of here, man. We've been on here about an hour, man. So we're going to go ahead and get off, man. Let everybody kind of think about and marinate on the stuff we talked about. Hey, appreciate everybody who came out and listened. Feel free, please drop some comments, drop some topics and things you would love to hear about. You know what I'm saying? We got some things, we're going to keep going and just try to do this every week, man. We all busy and everything. We try to get together, it's good. Just having good
Yeah.
open conversation about stuff, man. And looking forward to what we've got going on, man.